Welcome to Sakshi TV Special Immigrant Edition talk show with attorney Mr. Parvathaneni. Please note that Sakshi TV now has 4 immigration shows every week. On Tuesdays with Kaveti, on Wednesdays with Prashanti Reddy, on Thursdays with Parvathaneni, and on Fridays with Banu and Indra. Please tune in to ask your questions. If you are an immigration attorney and would like to join our special shows, please email us at usa@sakshi.com or call us at 866-725-7441. Before we begin the show, please note that the information provided on this show is not legal advice and for general informational purposes only. Sakshi TV or its agents will not be responsible for the use of information. If you need any specific legal advice, you can contact the attorney directly. Mr. Chan needs no introduction, but if you need consultation, please log on to spblawfirm.com site. It provides with latest cutting-edge information about US policies and visa issues that you don't have to be a lawyer to understand. Without any further delay, let's welcome Parvathaneni Garu on our show. Parvathaneni Garu, welcome back. I hope you're doing well.
Hello, Shivani. Thank you, Shivani, and thank you to all the viewers of Sakshi TV. I'm glad to be back, and thank you, and hopefully we'll have another very good educational session.
Yes, I'm very excited for this session, Mr. Parvathaneni Garu, because today we thought we will discuss a little about the H1B second lottery and also some multiple registration issues. But before we get onto the topic, are there any latest immigration updates that we have to know?
Sure. So not much going on the immigration side, other than USCIS just came out with the second lottery, and it was second lottery was expected, but the number of registrations they selected was.
Parvathaneni Garu, looks like you're on mute or something. Yeah.
Hello, Shivani. Sorry about that. I think looks like my mute button got activated. So in terms of the news updates, so the H1B. So the H1B, the second lottery that came out, the selections came out. And the second lottery by itself was not surprising. However, what is surprising is the number of selections. They almost selected 77,000 additional selections. And we have only 85,000 slots, 85,000 H1B visas in a year. And the second lottery selected 77,000. So that was very surprising. That's one thing that just recently happened. And then the visa bulletin, the monthly visa bulletin, it's very, very disheartening for Indian nationals waiting for a green card. The dates are not going any further, and they're stuck. EB3 is stuck in 2009, EB1 is stuck, EB2 is stuck. That being said, it is kind of expected at this time of the year every year, because the new visa bulletin that will kickstart from October 1st. So the October bulletin is the bulletin that we expect to progress every year. So September bulletin is typically the last bulletin of the year, the fiscal year for USCIS. So even though the dates are pretty bad, not moving forwards in the last couple of months, I think the good thing is the new bulletin that will come in the next month, the October bulletin. Starting from October bulletin, we do anticipate some positive news. So hopefully next year will not be as bad as this fiscal year. This fiscal year was very bad with the green cards. They're completely stuck. The dates were not at all going ahead. So in terms of latest updates, the main thing is H1B, the second lottery, the case filings have started. And then for the green cards, hopefully starting from next month, things will start moving once again.
Yes. And also, Mr. Parvathaneni, can you please elaborate a little on the second lottery? Can you tell us how many visas were selected in the second lottery, and also why were they actually selected this time?
So this year we had a second lottery, and last year we had only one selection. We did not have second lottery or a third lottery. And this year, I think it's different. And it's kind of, in the last few months, I think it was kind of expected that we will see a second lottery. But just to give an idea of what exactly happened, we have 85,000 slots for a H1B. So every year when USCIS is taking this lottery, they're trying to fill up 85,000 H1B slots. And in the first lottery that happened in March, USCIS selected 110,000. because they do anticipate that some people will not file or some people will fall out. So they select a little bit more than what is actually available. And for the 85,000 slots that are available, USCIS announced that they selected 110,000 in March when they did the first lottery. And the second lottery is typically required if not enough people file in the first round of selection. So, however, what has happened is there are a few things that have happened. Economy is bad. Economy is not bad, but I think there were a lot of tech layoffs. So I think that kind of had an impact. And then the main impact was because of the multiple registrations. USCIS gave out the facts. They released the numbers, and they stated that there's a lot of H1B fraud happening in terms of multiple registrations. And not only did they issue that notification, they also warned everybody and said they are going to recommend to the right agencies for criminal prosecutions. And that was a big thing. And I think that impacted a lot. And a lot of companies that were involved in collusion were involved in multiple registrations. Because what some companies were trying to do is they were trying to increase their chances of lottery selections, and they were colluding with other companies, and they were getting the same employee filed under different companies. And once USCIS came out with this notification, came out with this warning, I think a lot of people, they finally, got sense got into them, and they stopped doing the filings whenever there is a problem. Because of it, second lottery was necessitated. However, the numbers, USCIS announced that they have selected 77,000 in the second lottery. 77,000 is a huge number. Never in the past, in the second lottery, they've selected so many registrations. And I think what has happened is a lot of people did not file in the first lottery because clearly, whatever USCIS is saying about multiple registrations is true. A lot of the filings that they got are multiple registration filings. And now, because those people have not filed, it looks like a lot of slots were left out. And USCIS utilized the second lottery to go ahead and select all the other valid applicants. And that's why now we see the second lottery where 77,000 got selected. That being said, USCIS has very powerful data tools. So they also anticipate, even though they have selected 77,000 selections, they do anticipate that a couple of the folks might not file for various reasons. Because of the way the economy is doing, because of multiple registration warnings that they have issued, and so on. So 77,000 is what they selected, but I think they have they've taken account that a lot of people might not file and a lot of people could change. So I think they want to make sure that they use that data and do the selections in such a way that they maximize and they try to fill up all the 85,000 visas that are allocated under law.
Yes. And also, Mr. Parvathaneni, nowadays, a lot of news articles are coming saying that there were companies that are doing multiple fraud registrations. And because of that, there's a lot of cases that are happening. And how will that affect the second lottery this time?
So again, USCIS, they gave out the statistics. So they got overwhelming number of 750,000 registrations. So that's a lot. There are only 85,000 H1B visas. They got 750,000. So that's like a couple of multiples of what is allowed under law. And that being said, so when USCIS did the digging, almost 400,000 plus, that is basically more than 50% of the cases which were filed in the lottery, they were duplicates. So when you say duplicate, multiple companies have filed for the same person. So that doesn't look right. I mean, when more than 50% of the applicants have more than one employer filing the cases, and then there are a lot of tech layoffs happening, things didn't look right. And USCIS basically released that data. They said, look, this is the data that we are seeing, and this is the data we saw last year. So clearly the number of multiple filings is going up, and they released their statistics. And along with the statistics, USCIS clearly said, look, USCIS cannot criminally prosecute anybody because they're not an enforcement agency. However, what they can do is, as a government agency, they can get all the facts, the data, and give that to an enforcement agency. And the enforcement agency, such as ICE, they can do the criminal prosecution. Criminal prosecution, in layman sense, means they're going to arrest somebody if they find a problem. So basically, that's what criminal prosecution is. Criminally, if they find somebody has done something wrong in the criminal aspect, they can go arrest somebody. It is not just penalties, but it can even lead up to arrests. So that is a very good warning, because that is helping people realize, at least now, that they should not be misusing the system. And what is happening is the companies, they're revisiting their registrations. They are making sure if there is any kind of collusion, at least the people who want to listen, they're listening and taking a step back and not filing the case. Because if they don't file the case, at least USCIS can use that visa number to somebody that is qualified. And luckily, that is what has happened. At least people did not file in the first round. Whoever is involved with multiple, at least majority of the people who are involved with multiple registration issues. So luckily, the second lottery opened up. And I do expect the same trend to continue. A lot of people who got selected in the second lottery, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of issues with multiple registration, just as USCIS has pointed out. And more than likely, a lot of people will fall out. A lot of people, even if they got selected, because they have multiple registration issues, we can expect the same trend. A lot of people not applying if they do have the multiple registration issue. That is not allowed. Well, there is a certain kind of multiple registration that is allowed. And if one single employee gets a job offer from multiple companies, the multiple companies are completely independent, all the job offers are completely legitimate, then there is no issue. So if Google gives a job offer, Microsoft gives a job offer, and both the companies do the filing, that kind of a multiple registration is not an issue. The issue is if there is only one single job, but multiple companies are trying to file the registration for the same employee for the same assignment, and tomorrow it gets selected at one company, and only that one company will file. So that's kind of a fraud. So it is basically there is no real job. They're trying to make it sound like there is a job and do a registration. So those are the ones that are impacted. And because of that reason, since a lot of people might not file, I do expect a lot of filings not to be done, similar to what has happened after the first round.
Yes. And what kind of steps is USCIS taking to eliminate this multiple fraud registration? So, Mr. Parvathaneni.
So I think the reason why this multiple registration happened on such a large scale this March is because a lot of people thought that USCIS is not really doing anything about multiple registration issue. However, the reality is USCIS has been doing a lot since last 1 year. Last year, before the lottery, they gave a big warning. They made everybody aware that there is a big clause that everybody has to sign before they do the registration. So they made sure that people attest under purchase penalty that they're not colluding with other companies. So that was the first time that USCIS gave out a big warning. And unfortunately, people did not pay very close attention to that. And then once they realized this issue last year, so USCIS realized this issue last year itself. And once they realized this issue, they started issuing a lot of notices to companies starting from last October. And they have been issuing a lot of notices. So wherever they have been finding fraud or collusion, they have been issuing notices of intent to revoke if a case has been approved. And if the case is not approved, a notice of intent to deny. And at least for the last 7-8 months, USCIS has been going after companies, giving them these notices, revoking the H1s. And in spite of that, people have still did multiple registration issue this year, this March. And I think USCIS at that point of time, they were like frustrated, and they came out with this public announcement that they're actually referring people to criminal prosecutions. And that means some people could even get arrested. And eventually, once that notification about criminal prosecutions came out, that is when people really started paying attention. That is when people really started taking a step back. And luckily, even media, it came out in the media on a wide scale. People, I think, are realizing the mistake they've done. And slowly, I think they're taking a step back. How do we know? Because we're seeing people not do the H1B filings. Even if they got selected in the H1B lottery, they're taking a step back. They're not doing the filings. At least that's a good thing. And I think it is coming down because of that reason. And right now, people can expect multiple registration notices of intent to revoke or notices of intent to deny. And on top of that, we have also seen USCIS send out revocation notices. So these revocation notices are clearly telling that they have a finding of fraud. And because of the fraud finding, they're revoking the H1B visa. And that revocation notice is a little bit different. What the revocation notice also implies is somebody cannot use that to transfer in the future. They have to come back again in the lottery. So revocation with the finding of fraud is a very big thing. And USCIS has been sending revocations with the finding of fraud to multiple petitioners who are involved in this multiple registration issue. So overall, what that means is USCIS is taking steps, and that is definitely showing an impact.
Yes. Mr. Parvathaneni, my next question to you is, let us say now that, the multiple fraud registration and the second lottery happened, let's just mix both of it. Let's say someone has applied in the first lottery and they've got selected, but again, simultaneously, simultaneously, they were also selected in the second lottery from a different company. What is going to happen, in that scenario? Can you please describe a little more about the situation?
Sure. So I think so. We do have seen a lot of such cases. The first lottery was done; they got selected. Probably they even got an approval, and then the second lottery happened, and then they got selected under the second lottery. And some people, they did not get selected in the first lottery, or they got selected in the first lottery, and either their filing is still in pending status. They have not received an approval, and now they got a selection under the second lottery. So a lot of people, I think, they have two concerns. One, is it even possible that the USCIS can again select the same person because it's a mistake? And the second thing is, can they even file under the second lottery? So the two things. First thing is, yes, USCIS can do a selection under the second lottery. There's nothing wrong about that, because the current rules say that a person can have a registration from multiple different companies as long as they're independent, completely bona fide job offers. So somebody can have an offer from Google, somebody can have an offer from Microsoft, for example. Both the companies can file, and maybe one company got selected the first time, one company got selected the second time. And now the employee has a choice. So they have a choice on where they want to work. So multiple selections are possible. That's not an issue. And the other issue is, what if I already got an approval with this other company from the first lottery? Now my dream company got selected in the second lottery. What do I do? As per USCIS, there is nothing wrong. The second company can still go ahead and file the new petition for them. And then the employee can decide where they want to work. The only caveat is, employee really has to make sure that the companies are independent, the job offers are bona fide. And because of all this multiple registration issue, everybody should use the due diligence to make sure the companies are legitimate and they're completely independent.
Yes. And also, Mr. Parvathaneni, can someone who received a revocation due to multiple registration issue transfer for a different company?
Sure. So last year, a lot of people got approvals. And some of them now are getting revocations because their company was involved in H1B fraud due to multiple registration issue. We have some cases where when they see that notice, the employee is trying to do a transfer. We also have some cases where even before the notice came out, this notice from USCIS notifying them that there is multiple fraud issue, some people transferred before, but either they got an approval or that case, the transfer case is still pending. And it's a very, very legitimate concern. What will happen to their transfer process because their initial H1B petition was involved in fraud due to this multiple registration issue? This is what will happen. If their initial H1B, the very first time that their case got selected in the lottery, if that petition gets revoked by USCIS because of a fraud finding, if that is the case, they will not be able to transfer. USCIS will not let them transfer, because their visa number has been revoked and it has been put back into the system. So this is what will happen. If their initial H1B, the very first time that their case got selected in the lottery, if that petition gets revoked by USCIS because of a fraud finding, if that is the case, they will not be able to transfer. USCIS will not let them transfer because their visa number has been revoked So anybody whose base petition, the initial H1B petition, is revoked because of H1B fraud, because of some kind of a fraud finding by USCIS, they will not be able to transfer. And even if they transfer down the line, they potentially could have an issue. So what do they do? So what we suggest is we have told anybody who might be impacted with a multiple registration issue with a revocation notice. If the company has got such a notice, the employees should again come through the lottery once again. They should apply, they should come through the H1B lottery. They should go through a clean process, make sure the company that the company that they are going through is a legitimate company. There is no multiple registration issue or any kind of issue. Go through a legitimate company, get an approval again, and that is how they should be able to get back into status. If not, once the base petition is revoked, all their future transfers are jeopardized.
Yes. And also, what do you think USCIS is going to do? Are there any special steps that you think USCIS is going to take to avoid during the future H1B filings?
Yes, with the kind of the mass scale of the issue that USCIS is seeing, I mean, more than 50% of the registrations are having an issue or potentially could have an issue. That is what USCIS has stated. 750,000 registrations, more than 400,000 registrations are multiple. So USCIS is definitely not happy, and there are a lot of news in reliable media that USCIS is already looking into ways to solve this problem in the future. One, what has happened, and USCIS will go after people who have who they suspect have been a part of this multiple registration issue. But for the future, they want to correct the system. So they are already looking into this in the future, so that way somebody does not unfairly get an advantage because of multiple registration issues. And they are looking within the current regulations on what they can do to improve the system. And next couple of months, we can definitely see some public notices, some kind of notifications on the new process. There is a very high chance. And some of the things that they're probably considering are maybe giving all the beneficiaries the same amount of chance. So if people have, say, multiple companies legitimately offer a job, but give value to that employee. So in terms of counting in the lottery, they'll be counted only as once, even though they have multiple registrations. So they're looking at various ways, and nothing has been finalized yet. And there is a process that they have to follow under the Administrative Processing Act, the APA rules. So they are supposed to follow some process before they change their process. And more than likely, we have time. The next lottery is going to be next year. So I definitely anticipate that some changes will come. They've already announced about a proposal for a fee increase. One of the thing is the current fee is only $10, and it is very, very easy. The fee is $10 to get into the registration process. And one of the things that they've already recommended is a $200 fee, a huge increase in the fee for each registration to deter multiple registrations. So they're looking at various things: a fee increase for registration, maybe changing the process they do the registrations, maybe the process they do their selections, and so on. And definitely we can expect to see some changes for the next year's lottery. This year was definitely a mess. We hope that USCIS does something that we are not in the same mess again next year.
Yes. And also, is it possible that people can travel during or when their a visa has been selected in the second lottery? Is there a possibility that they can travel to a different country, Mr. Parvathaneni?
So if somebody is in US and somebody is filing a H1B filing, so somebody is either in student status or maybe H4 status, and they are filing a H1B, the company is filing a H1B petition. So what the companies do is they file what is called as a change of status petition. And anytime a change of status petition gets filed, one should not travel out of the country. There is a rule that says if you travel out of the country, the change of status part of the petition will get denied. So if somebody needs to travel, they should do it before the company does the H1B filing. Right now, there is time until October 31st to do the filing under the second lottery. So if somebody needs to travel, they should travel out of the country right now, come back, and then they should let their employer know that they're back, and then the H1B filing can be done. But once the filing is done, we don't recommend that they travel out of the country, because if they travel out of the country, they potentially will not get change of status approved. And not only that, they will have to go for visa stamping. They have to wait until they get their H1B visa, and only then they'll be able to re-enter the country. So it will complicate the process. So if there is any travel involved or anticipated, definitely they have to let their employer know. They have to let their attorney know if their company has an attorney.
Yes. And also the biggest question, is there going to be a third lottery this year, according to you?
Yeah, depending, looking at where things are happening with all this multiple registration issue, my guess is a lot of people who are a part of this multiple registration mess did get selected. And because of the USCIS notification, a lot of people did not file in the first lottery. Same thing will repeat. A lot of people, whoever are impacted through this multiple registration issue, more than likely those companies will take a step back. And what that means is we do anticipate that a lot of the people will not file, which potentially means that there is a good chance of a third lottery. That being said, USCIS selected a lot of selections. They did 77,000 selections. And what that means is they definitely accounted for the fact that many people might not file. So they probably did select a lot of people. And that being said, at least the internal talk, at least among the lawyers, is we're going to see the repeat of what we saw after the first lottery. And what that means is a lot of people might not file. And what that means is there is definitely a chance for a third lottery.
Yes. I think we can continue this session again next week, Mr. Parvathaneni. Thank you again for giving your valuable time for us. Thank you again for the viewers for tuning in. You're watching Sakshi TV with me, Shivani Raj.
Thank you, Shivani.